Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You have tuned into the Rebel News live stream on this, a Tuesday, August 10th, 2021. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host, folks, if she were a movie, she'd be a summer blockbuster. She is the she-devil with a sword. She is the Khaleesi of Northern Alberta. She is Sheila Gunn Reid. How are you doing, Sheila?
I'm doing great, David. I just want to warn everybody who is tuning into the live stream today that you might hear some banging, clanging, hammering, construction equipment noises in the background. And my husband and my daughter are building a machine shed. So there's noises related to that, and I don't want to stop them because they have to work when the weather's nice.
Well, you know, Sheila, thank you for yet again making me feel like so less of a man. I can't build anything. And here you have not only your husband, but your daughter putting up some structure. I mean, I go into the home hardware store. It's like Dracula walking into a garlic factory. I mean, it's like, get me out of here. Can't anything fit on the back of the pickup pre-built, you know? So that's fantastic that not only is your husband skilled, but your amazing daughter also. But there you go.
You know, it's funny. We were talking in the company Slack channel yesterday, and Yankee's like, yeah, I can't do that. I'm like, you know what, though? My daughter couldn't do journalism. She can't do that. So, you know, everybody's got their talents. My husband doesn't look great in a fedora. David, you do. Everybody's got their thing.
Well, thanks for trying to heal my fragile ego here, Sheila. But I would trade the fedora in journalism to have the skills to build anything or fix anything
Life skills,
in a heartbeat. You know, that's real work. That's the real deal, you know. But in any event, Sheila, it's around this time that you tell the folks the ostensible policy reason for this next 58 minutes of live broadcasting.
Oh, no, it's not normally around this time. Usually it's about 15 minutes from now when we figure out what we're actually getting paid to do here today.
You know, I'm just trying to keep on track because I'm looking at our topic list, and holy smokes, it's a long one today.
Yeah, you know that Margaret, she is sure a slave driver. She was just throwing stuff into the live stream. You got to talk about this, you got to talk about that. So let me explain what we're doing here. This is a Rebel News daily live stream. Used to just be on Friday, hosted by Ezra. Now it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, hosted by Ezra, and Tuesdays and Thursdays, hosted by myself and my friend, colleague, one of the best people on the planet, David Menzies.
Oh, so nice.
And it gives us a chance to interact with each other, which is fun because I don't work in the office, so I like the camaraderie, but it also gives us a chance to interact with our viewers at home because during the pandemic, and the pandemic's over here in Alberta, it's a nothing burger. But, you know, in Ontario, the dictatorship is holding on for dear life and they don't want this thing to end. So some of you are still at home, like some of you are still working from home. So this is a great chance for you to catch up on the news of the day with your favorite rebels, if I say so myself. And we used to just be on YouTube. However, YouTube went full evil in the last year, but you know, the inklings of full evil have been, you know, rearing its ugly head probably for the last 4 or 5 years since Trump won. So they completely demonetized us. It cut a $400,000 hole right out of the middle of our company, but they don't want us there, which is one of the reasons I insist that we stay there, just for spite. And we have 1.5 million viewers on YouTube that we don't want to abandon. However,
absolutely,
if you are there watching us on YouTube, can I suggest that you take the off-ramp to a platform that doesn't care about your politics, just wants your eyeballs and nothing else, like Rumble, where we are streaming right now, and over on Odyssey. And on Odyssey, there's a couple different ways to support the work that we do. You can leave us a hyper chat, and you can leave us a tip as a creator, and you can do both of those using Odyssey's library cryptocurrency. And this is the portion of the show where I say, what's a cryptocurrency? Or you could support us by throwing some regular old fiat currency our way. And you can also support us on Super U, which is another great free speech platform. And these new platforms are really responsive to the creator. If there's something we think is missing on their platform, they do their best to address that and add it to the platform for us. And over on Super U, you can also tip us as the creator using regular old money. I think it might just be in U.S. currency, but you know what? You guys are smart. You'll figure out the exchange rate. And those are some ways where you can watch us and support the work that we do and support these up and coming platforms that really don't care about your politics. And I think that's really important.
You know, and speaking of politics, Sheila, I know this isn't on the list, and I'm just, but I'd like to briefly address it. You're mentioning how things have opened up again in Alberta, thank goodness. Here in Ontario, we're crawling back to normalcy. But the thing is, it is just amazing to witness, but not surprising, how the leftist progressive media is already attacking Doug Ford, because next year is an election year in Ontario, in terms of rushing the openings, in terms of kids going back to school, in terms of not committing to a vaccine passport. And Doug is kind of like, he has the face right now of someone that just smoked a cigar that exploded in his mouth. It's like, what? I've been kowtowing to you guys for years now, right? You know, yeah. Sheila, isn't it amazing that we all saw this coming, except, of course, for Doug and his war room, that these people that you are bending the knee to and catering to and kowtowing to in all these press conferences while shutting us out, not even answering questions by email anymore, and they smell blood in the water to get rid of a progressive conservative government. Isn't it just amazing, Sheila? They never learn.
There's a lesson there that they will absolutely never learn. Never learn it. And it's funny because they're talking about Alberta the same way they talk about Alberta when we privatized liquor sales. Like, they're talking about us like there's a catastrophe unfolding here and our case counts are rising. And you know what? You're not going to know if those case counts are rising after the 16th, I think it is, because that's when we stop counting asymptomatic cases, and we only start counting or even testing people if you need hospitalization. That's when we're going to figure out if you have the coronavirus, because it's not this dangerous disease anymore. We're treating it like an endemic, like the seasonal flu. And if you get the seasonal flu, you don't run off and get tested for the seasonal flu. You're just like, well, I'm sick. I'll take the day off work and we'll figure it out later. There are going to be no isolation and quarantine measures here. If you are someone who has it, if you're someone who's been exposed to someone who has it, we don't care anymore. And so the daily case count necromancy is finally coming to an end. And the dictatorship, they are beside themselves. They are rallying in parks in Edmonton and Calgary saying, no, we have to continue the testing, even though it literally doesn't matter because nobody's in the hospital anymore, or
Who's
almost
rallying?
nobody's.
Who are these people, Sheila?
Public sector union workers. Always, because they're the ones who can get time off work to do this kind of stuff. It's always them. They have been treated like effing royalty this whole time.
Oh, boy.
I did my best not to swear there because it was coming. It was like right there. But they have been treated like royalty this whole time. People have banged pots and pans to celebrate them. They've been getting raises upon raises. They're essential workers. They got into Costco before everybody else. They are special open hours in certain stores for them. They've done well during this pandemic while everybody else suffered. And now they're out there rallying for the extension of the pandemic because while they say, we don't want more restrictions, what do you think your constant case counts lead to?
Yeah.
That's the end goal here. So, I can see 3 steps down the road. I'm not stupid. And yeah, they're out there wanting more restrictions while everybody else is looking at us saying, boy, I wish we were like Alberta. Our public sector unions say we want more.
Yeah, and meanwhile, the biggest of the big, the Costco's, the Walmart's, business as usual. Actually, business not as usual. It's extraordinary when you shut down the competition. And other places where people congregate, such as churches, get seized, fenced off, locks changed under threat of contempt of court if you go into your own place of worship. Absolutely appalling. And I guess that's a segue. We have a couple of church stories, and I think...
Yeah, we just have breaking news, so we have to sort of throw the plan in the garbage a little bit. We need to react here because we have breaking news.
Oh my goodness, look at that. Breaking. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo resigns amid a barrage of sexual harassment allegations a year after he was hailed for his leadership during the darkest days of COVID-19. Oh, you can tell that's an Associated Press story because his leadership, he killed people. He was putting, that is outrageous in terms of how he managed the elderly and those that were sick. He was a one-man super spreader event. And yeah, no, this time last year they were talking about, I think, Sheila, Robert De Niro playing Andrew Cuomo in some sort of made-for-TV movie. I think those plans have been scuttled because holy 2019, Me Too is back from the dead, Sheila. And he is gone. I have to admit, I got this wrong. I was talking to Lady Menzoid. She said, when do you think he's going to resign? I go, I know these Cuomo types. He's going to have to be dragged out of office. He's going to continually deny. I'm surprised. I guess the pressure was such that even his own inner circle was leaving. So you had Patrick Brown circa January 2018, doing a one-man press conference crying about his alleged sexual allegations, and there was zero people around Patrick Brown. So another one bites the dust, Sheila?
I think Ben Shapiro said it best. He was on, I forget. He was on Fox News the other day anyways, and he said, Andrew Cuomo came to grab ass and kill the elderly, and he's all out of the elderly. And that really summarized like the last 2 years of Andrew Cuomo. He should have been forced to resign for all the dead people on his watch. That's what should have happened here. But for the left, dead elderly, that's just fine. People's grandparents dying alone unnecessarily because Cuomo has shipped off COVID patients to retirement homes, extended care facilities. He did that. But that wasn't what, sealed the deal for Cuomo. It was the Me Too movement. That seems to be the most powerful thing in Democrat politics right now is women's harassment. And don't get me wrong, both are important, but as a woman, on the scale of things that are really important in the world, killing people's grandparents are more important than me being sexually harassed. It just is.
And Sheila, I'm so furious about that lead in the AP story because it didn't have the necessary add-on of what we're talking about, how, yes, he was hailed as a hero a year ago when we didn't know better. We were thinking COVID was the second coming of Ebola, if you believe some of the hype. But now that we know by shipping elderly, from what you just described, he was no hero. He was an executioner. Why isn't that in the lead of the story? Because I agree, as odious as sexual harassment is, it takes a backseat to killing grandma and grandpa thanks to either ignorance or, who knows what his administration was thinking. I'm really upset that there's still this nugget of what a great guy he was, at least last year, when the opposite is true.
Well, and I think the underlying reason for sending COVID patients to homes that house the elderly and the infirm was so that he didn't have to take help from President Trump.
Yes.
There was the hospital ship that was sitting in the harbor that went unused. There was the temporary hospital in the conference center that went largely unused. There were other means for Governor Cuomo to deal with the COVID outbreak in his state. Absolutely. But that would have involved taking help from President Trump. And so he didn't. And so elderly died.
Indeed, going back more than a year, Sheila, I remember the big issue of lack of ventilators in New York State, and that being blamed on Trump when, if you dig deep, it was New York refusing to use in their budget to buy those ventilators when they should have been doing it. So again, a Cuomo made disaster.
Yeah, and how many Democrats have to be revealed to be that which the Democrats always claimed President Trump was before they have a bit of a soul searching? President Trump was supposed to be this misogynist who abused the women in his inner circle. I haven't heard any of the women in his inner circle who he had professional relationships with. They've all said that he treated them with the utmost respect, with dignity, and as though they were capable. And when you look at President Trump, who did he choose largely for his communications people? It was always women. You know, you look at Kellyanne Conway and Kayleigh McEnany. I forget how to say her name. I always don't know how many N's are in her name. And, all the women that were around him, none of them have ever accused President Trump of anything. And Cuomo, every woman who walked within 20 feet of him has some sort of sexual allegation against the guy. But this is, to use, the language of the COVID pandemic, this is endemic of the Democrat Party. You have to look at, the Clintons, Weinstein, Epstein. This is something that the Democrats are really good at. And, only when it gets to the event horizon where it stands to claim 20 or 30 other Democrats who had high profile relationships with the abuser, that's when they cut ties. But they let it always get to this point instead of having the 0% toleration for this sort of stuff that most of us have.
And I can't understand these men in power, Sheila, that give unwanted advances to women. I can't think of anything more humiliating, more embarrassing than engaging in that behavior. But I guess they're such egomaniacs, and they think they're in such a position of power that they can get away with it. And wow, it really looks good on Cuomo. Now they have a movie of the week that I would tune into, but I guess those plans are scuttled. We're not going to bother with that. And I think, Mr. Producer, he's always Johnny on the spot. He actually has a clip of Cuomo. Let's check it out.
And wasting energy on distractions is the last thing that state government should be doing. And I cannot be the cause of that. New York tough means New York loving. And I love New York. And I love you. And everything I have ever done has been motivated by that love. And I would never want to be unhelpful in any way. And I think that given the circumstances, the best way I can help now is if I step aside and let government get back to governing. And therefore, that's what I'll do. Because I work for you. And doing the right thing is doing the right thing for you. Because as we say, it's not about me, it's about we. Kathy Hochul, my lieutenant governor, is smart and competent. This transition must be seamless. We have a lot going on. I'm very worried about the Delta variant, and so should you be. But she can come up to speed quickly, and my resignation will be effective in 14 days. To my team, Melissa DeRosa, Robert Mejica, Beth Garvey, Stephanie Benton, Dana Caratanudo, Kelly Cummings, Rich Azzapardi, Howard Zucker, Rick Cotton, Jano Lieber, Jack Davies, and the hundreds of dedicated...
Wow, Sheila. Yeah, it's not me, it's we. Actually, Governor Cuomo, it's me too. You forgot that part.
Yeah.
Why do I get the sense, Sheila, I'm watching this fake emotion, I feel like I'm on a car lot and some guy is trying to sell me a 1971 Ford Pinto.
I had to take one of my earbuds out when he was talking because it felt like he was also sexually assaulting my ears. Like his voice just drives me crazy. It just gives me the creeps.
Oh my goodness, Sheila Gunn Reid's Me Too moment, the audible version.
My ears were harassed by Governor Cuomo. You know, I love how he's the martyr here. He can kill a bunch of grandparents, grope a bunch of women, use his power and the power imbalance to, you know, sexually harass them in the workplace. And he's the martyr, and he's stepping down because he loves you. He just loves you so much. While he was talking there, I wrote a note saying, did he molest his speechwriter because I think she quit? Like, I don't even know. Like, that was really poorly done. But, and I liked the romper room moment at the end there where he's looking in the mirror and he's listing everybody's names. Do you remember that old show where the lady
I do.
romper room, and she was like, I see Peter and I see Johnny and I see Susie, and that's when he was listing the names at the end. I'm like, oh, we're doing romper room, good. And also I noticed that he threw in the we there, and I really dislike when politicians do this because it's like there's some sort of collective responsibility for the bad things that this guy did. Justin Trudeau does this all the time. It's a learning moment for us. And some people experience some things differently. No, that lady experienced what you did to her. Like, they always use this, like, this is as a nation, this is a moment for all of us. And it's like, no. This is about you and your bad behavior, and this has nothing to do with me or David or any of the other people that you listed at the end in your romper room moment. This is about your bad behavior, and you're having a moment of accountability, and you can't even make it a moment of accountability because you're making it a moment of martyrdom, which is gross.
Well said, Sheila. And you know what I thought was too cute by half? That reference to the Delta variant. He can't ignore the COVID virus, even in this moment of his own personal resignation. It's almost as though he's saying, Sheila, you know, maybe I misbehaved, but the real monster, it's out there. That's where we should be focusing our attention to, that Delta variant. Oh, give me a break already.
Yeah, no, he doesn't need to worry about the Delta variant. He already wiped out all the old people. Yeah. You know, I don't know if someone could do worse handling the COVID outbreak than Governor Cuomo. Like, if you were actively trying to do a terrible job at handling the coronavirus outbreak, I don't think you would have made choices differently than Governor Cuomo. But he was too busy also, as it turns out, being highly distracted in other parts of his life to make good decisions, it sounds like.
And why 14 days, Sheila? Isn't that kind of a long goodbye?
Yeah, what's the point? Like, what are you going to accomplish in the next 14 days? Is this like 14 days to flatten the curve of scandal? Like, is that the timeline for all of these things now?
Yeah, are we going to see some file folders in the paper shredder before he leaves those behind? That's automatically what I assume when I hear somebody of the character of Cuomo saying something that he needs another 14 days to get out of office. I think this is CYA time for him as opposed to any kind of governance. I mean, he's a lame duck as of right now, so what can he do? But you know what? I say, Sheila, good riddance. Then again, given how New Yorkers vote, could this be better the devil you know than the one you don't know? Who's going to take his place?
Well, and that's the thing. Like, where's the Republican Party in New York on this? You know, like, this is a scandal of international proportions.
Yep.
If we're only talking about how he handled the pandemic and how many of the elderly died because of his decisions. This is an enormous scandal, and I know you're up against the mainstream media, but still, where are you on this issue? Like, can you name a high-profile Republican in New York?
You know, I have more contempt for these Republicans that are playing by the rules of Queensbury when you're dealing with Democratic street fighters.
Yeah.
You know, those Republicans go, well, you know, we've got a bipartisan agreement. That should be applauded. I mean, it is pathetic because this is a gift to them if they press the accelerator. And it could be the basis for yet more support for a turnaround in the midterm elections and maybe there are more Democrats, high-profile Democrats, to walk the plank too, Sheila.
That's what this is about. That's what this is about. That's why he's saying, I got to go now. And maybe that's why he has this sense of martyrdom, because he might be actually being martyred by the party to stop the bleeding, because I think this could get like a little bit more, I don't want to say collateral damage because I feel like a lot of them are guilty. Collateral damage is the wrong word. But I think that this could get a lot bigger if it doesn't get ended right now.
What do you think, by the way, it's really neither here nor there, but the way his voice was wavering there, was he trying to cry? Was he trying to tear up? He should have gotten some acting advice from Patrick Brown on that file, who actually got the waterworks going. But Cuomo, I think, is such a shyster that he's incapable of tears, Sheila.
Yeah, you know what? He's got a lot of love, or at least he did until not all that long ago, from Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
They really loved him. So, you know, they could have given him an acting coach, because that was terrible. That was awful.
That was the vibe I got. I might be wrong, but I think he was literally trying to cry. And
I think so.
Yeah, but I don't think this guy would even cry at the ending of Old Yeller. So
I don't mean to be gross, but I think, and I know Ezra might have brought this up on the show, but it's one of those things that you're just like, I wish I'd ever heard my boss talking about that or knowing that about Cuomo. But I think he has nipple rings, right? Does he have?
Oh, I heard
Maybe
about
he
that.
could have yanked those and shed a tear, like, you know, as a warm up.
Yes, didn't he wear a shirt and you could see the impression through the shirt or something like that? Or
Yeah.
Well, at least he didn't go purple hair. That usually walks lockstep with the extreme body piercing. There we go. Yikes!
No.
Oh, poor Cuomo. He should have worn his Menzies that day.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Or is it the bro? Anyway, we shall carry on. Unless, do we have some chats on that?
No, I think we should leave on that note, I think.
Okay. Well, here's something that I think is even more disturbing than Governor Cuomo, if you can believe it, folks. It is what happened in Seattle on the weekend. It is absolutely shameful. Now, it's a story involving Antifa. The footage is disturbing. I think, Sheila, what is even more disturbing, without giving away the plot, is the role the police played, which is absolutely shameful. Folks, it was Pastor Art about to do a prayer service, and then those loving, mostly peaceful members of Antifa came along. Check it out.
So we were about to have a worship event, and Antifa just rolled in like an angry mob, started throwing flash bombs at everybody, macing everybody, rotten eggs at everybody, black paint. They threw a flash bomb into a group of kids that were out there, from like 4 months old to like 10.
Part of a man that says, who do you think you are, you gangster, wannabe tyrant? And women, of course, because they know, I'm telling you, Adam, women stood their ground and they said, no, we're not moving. How dare you do this to us? This is our city. So we stood our ground. People gave their speeches. Of course, I did as well. And we're coming back to the city next to continue. But what is shocking to me is that the police was involved in this setup. It was a total setup.
How Arsons here with Rebel News. You all likely know Pastor Artur Pawlowski for his resistance against COVID restrictions and his dramatic roadside arrest. He stayed open and continued to feed the poor, and for it he was made an enemy of the public. He faced not only police and government oppression, but targeted harassment from members in his own community. For the last little while, he has been touring the United States and he's encountered very little problems, but today in Portland, Oregon, we are seeing shocking footage of an speaking engagement that he was set to be at, ostensibly being attacked by Antifa. We joined Pastor Artur Pawlowski on the phone for an update. Pastor Artur Pawlowski, thanks for joining me. If you could give me a quick update on what happened today.
Well, we were invited to Portland, Oregon, and the event started at 12 o'clock, and we were told to do it in a battleship memorial. But later, the police contacted the organizers, and they've told them to move just a little bit to the side of the park. And behold, they said to Antifa to come and do whatever Antifa does in that location. It was a Christian event, so it was organized by a number of churches together. I was one of the speakers. Before everything started, the Antifa, dressed in black, about 25, 30 of them, started to throw fire bombs on children and women. I mean, can you imagine babies in strollers, fire bombs, smoke bombs, tear gas, rotten eggs, and, the whole craziness. Before even everything started, the police was watching this whole thing, seeing what was going on, the women and children being attacked, and they did absolutely nothing. So what we did, we continued with the event in the exact location we said we would, at the Battleship Memorial. So I gave a speech over there. I'm going to publish it today, and other pastors were speaking as well. And because of the incident, we got invitation to come next week for a number of events, because, that's what I love, American spirit, the patriotic spirit of, fighters, resistance, the liberty, it's just the heart of a man that says, who do you think you are, you gangster, wannabe tyrant? And women, of course, because, I'm telling you, Adam, women stood their ground and they said, no, we're not moving. How dare you do this?
Sheila, it is infuriating watching that video. I urge our viewers to watch the entire video, because you'll see members of the assaulted congregation going up to a couple of constables in a police SUV. And you can't hear what the conversation is, but it appears to me they don't give a rodent's rectum. That's just another day in Seattle. I did a Google News search. I would say this is absolutely serious front page news if you're the Seattle Times. The last time they mentioned Antifa was January 20th of this year. I guess it's so commonplace, the assaults, it's not even considered newsworthy there anymore. I didn't see any other local newspaper coverage or TV station coverage. This is, make no mistake, this is a Democrat state, this is a Democrat city, and Antifa are basically the militia of the Democrat Party. So you're not going to condemn them. For some reason, they think this is perfectly fine to go to people having a Christian church service and physically beat them up and pepper spray them and vandalize their equipment. How appalling. How did we get to this stage, Sheila?
Can you hear me, David?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yep,
okay,
thank you.
Perfect. Okay, if you watch the full video, it's really something to see, because just seconds before the people from the prayer service go to the police cruiser, like literally on the corner, you can see they're being attacked by Antifa again with pepper spray. And the cops are just sitting in their cars. They don't get out. They don't go chase Antifa. Nothing. Like, look at what Antifa's wearing. Can you imagine in your city or my city? I don't live in a city, thank God. But I mean, in the closest city, could you imagine, like, the people dressed like that, like those stormtroopers there, coming, like marching into a park towards innocent law-abiding people, and the cops not doing anything. They're coming with smoke bombs. They've got pepper spray, which in Canada, if you use that, it's big problems. Look, Antifa is there, pepper sprays them, pepper sprays that guy, and they run away, and look where the cops are.
Yep, just ho-hum. I wonder if Dunkin' Donuts is still open right now. You know, Sheila, any police officer with a scintilla of detective skills has to wonder that when you see people in helmets and goggles and completely concealing their identity in black, to use the Bruce Springsteen line, they're going down to the bar wearing trouble on their shirt. You'd think that would stand out. But my point of view is, it's not that the cops are dumb. They know there's going to be violence. They know there's going to be vandalism. Their political masters have told them, stand down. The Antifa are the good guys. That's what they're being told. And I think it's a no-win situation for the cops, because if they apply equal force to Antifa, you know how that's going to play out. Yeah.
And, it's equally appalling. You see politicians here in Canada and the media here in Canada saying, oh, Antifa, they're just anti-fascist. And so if you're against Antifa, then you must be a fascist by extension. And it's like, no, these guys are wearing black and beating up Christians. That feels pretty fascist to me. Like, I was thinking about it the other day, about Portland itself, and it's like the capital of the Antifa caliphate. When you look at the treatment of Christians in Portland, it's like the Antifa Raqqa. Like, Raqqa was the capital of the ISIS caliphate, right? And Portland right now is basically run by Antifa and politicians who are either enabling Antifa or scared of Antifa, and the cops are doing nothing. And if you're just a law-abiding citizen who wants to practice some of your constitutional rights in the United States, God help you, because you cannot be literally a Christian in the public square in Portland without getting pepper sprayed in the face and all your stuff wrecked.
Yeah. And Sheila, we have to unpack this in terms of the motivation, in terms of why they go after Christians, because I'll make a theory here that if that was a prayer group of Muslims in the park, Antifa is not going to do this. So is this about Antifa associating Christianity and the Christian church with white privilege, white supremacy? Is this about Antifa taking a dim view of the congregants? As you can see, nobody was wearing masks. Is it about that they like the idea of big government telling us what to do? How do you decompartmentalize why Antifa would attack these peaceful people just embracing their constitutional rights?
I think it's the same reason why government frequently attacks Christians. And, we've seen with Pastor Art, we've seen with Pastor Coates, we've seen with Tim Stevens. These are men who you cannot bring them to their knees in front of the golden calf of government. You just can't. Yeah. And so their morality will never come from government. It will never come from a political party. They might vote for a political party they think best aligns with their particular Christian worldview. But for them, they are governed in all things by God, by the Bible, by the Word of God, by Scripture. And so they really, if you are a big government authoritarian, the meek, mild-mannered, Bible-believing Christian is your worst enemy, because you cannot change them. You cannot.
Yeah, that's an interesting viewpoint. And I got to tell you, Sheila, too, can we stop calling these thugs Antifa, which is a contraction of anti and fascist? Look at the tactics they use: physical violence, pepper spray, vandalism, arson. These are not Antifa as an anti-fascist. They're just FA for fascists.
Yeah.
These are the tactics of fascism.
Yeah, these are Democrat shock troops. That's all. I think, though, this is a good segue into your wonderful video with Raheel Raza. Oh, I love Raheel.
I love her.
She's such a voice of reason. Even just her voice in her videos. I will listen to her videos over and over because I find her voice so calm and soothing. And she takes these big complex issues and turns them into 4 minutes. And it's like, yes, I get it. Perfect.
And she's so generous. You know, she gave me my keychain at Christmas time. And whenever she comes to Rebel HQ, she brings these incredible samosas. And she is just a genuine, loving person who I think wants to make the world work, essentially, Sheila.
Yeah.
And, you know, isn't it incredible? I mean, Raheel Raza is a Muslim. And here she is speaking out in defense of Christian churches, whereas our elected leaders, AWOL. Not one single elected leader was at this rally denouncing the burning of Christian churches, which is now more than 50.
Yeah, Raheel was quoting Christian scripture in her speech. There's no better ally for persecuted Christians than Raheel Raza, and I'm so glad she's on our side.
Well, let's take a look at some of the footage from a rainy Saturday.
Appointed, and I'm very disturbed. You know, today was a day when I had another commitment, but I decided to come here because as a Muslim, I feel it's very important for those people who are not part of the Christian faith to speak out in support of what is happening. Because I know that when, let's say, if a mosque, God forbid, was burned, the entire country would have been up in arms about Islamophobia, and the politicians would all have been here, and they would have been speaking. If this happens to any other community, they are there. Why is it that the Christians are sort of sidelined as though they are a minority when they're not?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand the narrative. You're quite right. I mean, I remember a few years ago, the hijab hoax, just based on an assumption something bad happened. It was later debunked. Well, you actually had the Prime Minister flying into Toronto to decry that. What is going on here in terms of the religion of Christianity is, I guess, fair game, and if bad things happen, oh well, people shrug. But if these were synagogues, if these were mosques, if these were Hindu temples, there'd be, I think, a royal commission struck by now.
Yes, a place of worship is sacred. It doesn't matter which faith it belongs to. But it should be the same for all communities, for all people of faith. You know, churches are an integral, sacred part of the Christian faith. If churches are being vandalized, and we're not talking about one church, we are talking about dozens of churches, and we're talking about this over a period of time. I mean, you know that because you have covered it. And I've been watching this, and I've been burning inside that why isn't anyone doing anything about this? Why aren't they speaking about it? There are MPs and MPPs in this particular riding who should have been here speaking today. They should have shown support. Maybe we can't do anything physically, but we got to show support for our Christian brothers and sisters. They are our brothers and sisters in humanity.
I totally agree. And Raheel, I guess we have to look at the issue through the lens of the unmarked burial graves of Indigenous residential students. And yet, by the same token, many of these churches that have been burnt to the ground were on Indian reserves. These were their community centers. These were places where people got married, where burial ceremonies took place. They didn't want these churches burnt down. So what is fueling this arson, given that I think this is re-victimizing those in the Native community?
It is, definitely. And I don't think that there has been a deep enough investigation done to find out what is happening. It's sort of brushed aside. You know, that, okay, it's happening, so a church is burned, so big deal. And I want to tell you something very poignant where the hate comes in. I posted this event on Facebook, and somebody, very educated, eloquent, I mean, I'm not talking about, somebody who's not educated, wrote a note, not a Muslim, not a Christian, wrote a note saying churches are, all funded on dirty money. I mean, something very, very nasty. And I thought to myself, this is what leads to hate. You can't make generalized statements. Yes, there have been problems with the residential schools. Yes, but these problems can be solved by dialogue. They are solved by pressuring our politicians. Burning of churches is not a solution to any problem.
100%. And I think one of the most profound things.
And Sheila, here's the question I ask you and our audience. Where are the words of outrage from Public Safety Minister Bill Blair, from RCMP Commissioner Brenda Lucki, from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau? It's the three monkeys: see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. In fact, actually, it's worse than ignoring it, because our very own Drea Humphrey last month in Vancouver was trying to scrum Prime Minister Trudeau on this. Not only did he not answer the question, why won't you condemn the burning of these churches, but one of Trudeau's goons manhandled Drea out of the way like she was some vermin at the garden party. This is sickening on two levels. Like I said, the actual vandalism and arson, and the complete silence from our elected officials.
Yeah, Bill Blair's too busy scapegoating hunters, farmers, for escalating gang crime that seems to be exceeding your coronavirus deaths in Toronto for some reason. That's where his focus is. He's not focusing on these church burnings. There's another one that happened over the weekend that they're becoming so frequent that it feels normalized at this point. Our web team has done a really great job of documenting these things. Great job, Margaret and Dave. You guys don't get enough kudos, but we know how hard you work. RCMP investigating arson at Fox Lake Community Church in northern Alberta. 550 kilometers north of Edmonton. The RCMP told media in a statement that emergency crews responded sometime around 10 p.m. on Saturday night after reports of fire at the Fox Lake Community Church. The building is still standing but sustained significant damage to the interior, RCMP said. A fire investigator attended the scene and was able to determine that the fire was, of course, deliberately set. We have a petition, saveourchurches.ca, to those three monkeys who don't seem to care about what's happening to Christian churches, to recognize the burning of churches as acts of hate and terrorism. But also, we have a reward at Find the Arsonist. Is it .ca or .com, Justin? I forget which one we have there. But if somebody has information leading to the identity of the arsonist, .com, thank you. Findthearsonist.com. So the identity of the people who are setting these fires deliberately and committing these acts of hate and terrorism, you can submit your tips at findthearsonist.com. And the boss man is putting up $10,000 of his own money to find the person responsible for the burning of these Christian churches, which is a heck of a lot more than the Canadian federal government is doing.
Oh, 100%. Oh, the Canadian federal government. Let's talk about Justin Trudeau's best pal, Gerald Butts. He doesn't condone the arson, but he understands it, Sheila. Could you imagine someone in that position saying, well, I don't condone the burning down of that mosque, but I understand it. It's cancel culture city within minutes. But evidently, if it's a Christian church, fair game, absolutely despicable. I believe we have some super chats.
Yeah, that's like Cuomo saying, or people defending Cuomo saying, I don't condone all the groping and sexual harassment that he did. However, I understand it based on how that lady was dressed.
Perfect. Yeah, look at that hemline, look at that cleavage. Obviously, he couldn't help himself. So, yeah.
Yeah, naturally, they had it coming.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to this. Oh. Deal with this first. Okay. We've got a hyper chat of Rebecca Henderson, who says Candace Owens broke on Twitter that the CDC is planning to create camps to protect people from COVID. Here's the CDC report. I think our friend Andrew Chapados is working on a story about that, so please stay tuned. We've got a super you from David's head of David Menzies fan club. Annalisa says, looking mighty fine today, Menzies.
Oh, well, thank you, Annalisa. And the David Menzies fan club membership won. But what a super fan she is. So thanks for the compliment.
Yeah, no, I feel like I look okay too, Annalisa, but that's okay. Whatever. It's fine. It's fine.
You've got that controlled yet wild hairstyle going yet again, Sheila.
I just, you know what? I'm just going with it. This is the hair God gave me, and this is the hair I'm going to have. We've got a hyper chat again from Rebecca Henderson. Can you imagine the public outrage if it was Ron DeSantis who did the things Cuomo did? Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Holy.
Sheila, they would have the live eye on his private residence, on the street of his private residence, all the news organizations. It would be like this ongoing crisis, it'd be 24/7 coverage of this, much like how the media acted with Rob Ford, where they just camped outside his personal residence for weeks on end, as if something breaking was going to emerge. It's disgusting. You're absolutely right, Rebecca.
And to add to that, I think a lot of the criticism would be coming from Republicans, who have some sort of standard of behavior. Yeah. She also goes on to say he would be forced to resign once the allegations came out and would be rightfully facing jail. Apparently, it's only okay to sexually assault people if you're on the left. Yeah. Where are the so-called feminists? Oh, the so-called feminists are oogling Justin Trudeau's socks. That's what they're doing. We saw this all unfold once already with Justin Trudeau making excuses for his gropey behavior, the kokanee grope, where he sexually harassed a female journalist years ago, and said that he would not have groped her if he had realized that she actually had a voice, if she had a way to fight back, because she was a journalist, and an op-ed was published later on. And so he said, boy, next time I'll grope some lady without a platform to fight back, basically was the insinuation.
And that's why I got the Cuomo prediction wrong, that he, would not resign. I thought he would do a Trudeau who, the groping is one scandal of so many, too long to list, including blackface. But I thought Cuomo was, made from the same cloth as a Trudeau, that he'll deflect, resist, and but apparently not. And you're right, Sheila, how Trudeau survived that as, someone who declares himself a feminist. And by the way, is it just me, Sheila, but why is it that so many men who declare themselves a feminist, such as Dion Buse, who gave you a knuckle sandwich at a women's rally in Edmonton a few years back, why do they seem to be the most misogynistic?
Methinks the lady doth protest too much. You know what I mean? Once somebody starts telling me they're a male feminist, my guard is immediately up. I'm walking the other way.
100%. I'm with you as well, Sheila.
You're going to get groped. You're going to get punched. Just go the other way. Yeah. We've got a Rumble chat from Chronic Bud. 99 says 2 weeks to shred the evidence. Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah, the Allies are marching on to Berlin in 1945.
Yeah. 2 weeks to flatten the facts. We've got a hyper chat. We've got a hyper chat of $1 from Aqua Skies 3636. How many senior citizens did he kill? I don't think we'll ever fully know the extent of the seniors that were exposed and who ultimately met an untimely demise because of the actions of Governor Cuomo. But if he had an ounce of shame, he would have resigned then instead of now.
Yeah, and don't expect the likes of American press to take a deep dive into those numbers, Sheila. They're still talking about his heroism of last year during the initial pandemic outbreak. It's unbelievable.
He was on the daytime talk show circuit, and everyone was gushing about how he could possibly one day be the president of the United States. And, he was America's governor, and the governor boyfriend or whatever, some of those awful TV talking head ladies, they said those things. And it's just now they're all just going to pretend we're hard of remembering and we don't remember the tongue bath you gave that guy for 18 months.
Unbelievable.
We've got a Rumble from Chronic Bud 99. This was gross to see Antifa and the useless cops there. Yeah, it was gross. Yeah. We've got a hyper chat from History Club World. It seems the Democrat Party is in a free fall. I'm not sure. They're pretty well protected by the mainstream media and big tech and, big corporations, woke corporations. Cuomo is out for his creepiness. Newsom appears to be facing a successful recall and job loss. Biden seems to be in his old age. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, at the same time, Sheila, I get a vibe from my American friends that there's something in the air that I think by the time the midterms come along, there's going to be a reality check, especially as the cost of living keeps increasing, especially after you're getting Marxist progressivism shoved down your throats. And by that, I mean critical race theory being taught in schools where you have enormous number of parents coming to school board meetings demanding the end to that. I think there's something in the air that suggests some hope. Like I said, it'd be nice if so many Republicans would, get a fighting spirit, and get in the game. But I think there could be a real reality check to these Democrats come the midterms.
Yeah, we might see the needle move a little bit when some of these bad Democrat ideas start affecting Democrat families, because some of Joe Biden's early dumb ideas and early decisions affected people who largely vote Republican, like the cancellation of Keystone XL. So once we see the trickle down of that sort of stuff, we might see some Democrats get mugged by reality. Here's hoping, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, right off the bat, what is the cost of gas now since the Biden administration took place? I believe it's at least 1/3 more than at the end of Trump's reign. Right off the bat, and that's not just the cost to fill your tank, it adds to all the costs of goods that get onto the shelf. I mean, even if you don't own a car and you ride your bike everywhere, when you buy that toothbrush from the pharmacy, how do you think it got on the shelf? It came off the back of a truck. So the costs keep going, and I think that's going to drive this. All these idealistic, virtue signaling policies in the name of the greater good, once it starts hitting more and more Americans in the pocket, once you have more problem paying your mortgage, I think there's going to be a backlash, Sheila.
I do too. We should get through some of these because I can't stay late today because I have a Fight the Fines interview right after we get off air, like 5 minutes after. So I'd love to stay and talk. You know that I would, but I have sort of double booked myself. We've got a hyper chat from Barry Dutton. He says, Tamara Ugolini drove to Oshawa Stan on Sunday for the big open-air church service, Freedom Rally, at our lakefront park on Lake Ontario with Pastor Henry Hildebrandt's congregation. It was awesome. Hugs, food, no masks. Everyone was so refreshed. A vaccine injury ceremony too. Yeah, Tamara's got a video coming up about that, so please stay tuned. She does such a good job at those rallies because that's where we found her.
Yes.
Those are her people. So it's good to just throw her back in the mix because that's how she came to us. She was just an activist mom out there giving her for freedom, and we thought she's a great hire, and let's add her to the army of moms who work for Rebel News. We've got a hyper chat from History Club World. Do you think there's any separate way for the people to charge the Antifa terrorists without the Portland police? I don't know, because then you have to deal with Democrat prosecutors, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, and just the very process, Sheila, if History Club World is alluding to, making a citizen's arrest. Look how violent these people are.
What are you going to do?
Look how weaponized they are.
Yeah, what are you going to do? And then again, like, it's the United States, so their prosecutors are elected, which I like, except for the fact that you are in a one-party state there in Oregon. So secondarily, have you tried to get this footage over to Fox News? Yeah, they actually covered it extensively. Harris Faulkner did the other day. Finally, now follow History Club World on Instagram. You know what? Good for you. Good hustle. We got a Rumble chat from Joyful from the Heart. This woman, Raheel, is a breath of fresh air. Isn't she great? Yes. She's just great. Her videos for us are so good, too. We've got a hyper chat from Rebecca Henderson. I would love to see the public outrage if Trump responded the same way Biden did to Cuomo's habit of sexually harassing, assaulting women. It's okay for Biden to not step in and do something, but if it was Trump, he would have been attacked and riots would break out everywhere. Shout out to Justin. Not just attacked, the women's march. Oh, sorry, Justin. I almost forgot because people have stopped doing that. But the women's march as an entity rose out of Democrat activists thinking that Trump was exactly like Cuomo. They were marching in the streets, hundreds of thousands of them, with their male feminist allies, all these cat ladies wearing ridiculous hats and I don't know. I don't even know what they were marching for, because if there were a reason for a women's march, it seems like there's a lot of underlying misogyny in the Democrat Party that they can allow somebody like Governor Cuomo to get away with this for so very long. Don't tell me they all didn't know. But there's no marches for the women in New York.
No, and I mean, Sheila, too, Joe Biden, as if he can take the moral high ground on this issue, given all the allegations
Reid
against him. Yeah. And where's the outrage there?
You know what? If you are if you're going to get groped, ladies, make sure it's done by a Republican, then maybe someone will care. That's the moral of the story here. It's 11 o'clock, or 1 where you're at, by the way. So I think we're all caught up and done.
Well, there you go. Well, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to all those that made a donation. We really appreciate that. Mr. Producer behind the board, Johnny on the spot as always, my lovely co-host, Sheila Gunn Reid. I'm David Menzies signing off. We'll see you again, Sheila and I, on Thursday. The big boss man, Ezra, he's back in this spot at this time tomorrow. No, he's not. I've just been told, because he's so darn busy. There'll be somebody else here, but you'll get full market value. In the meantime, stay sane.